Today I'm going to be showing you two different recipes, two different brownie recipes that play with the brownie texture. A lot of people have a really specific preference when it comes to brownie texture. Some people like their brownies chewy, some people like their brownies fudgy, cakey. But today I'm going to be showing you a fudgy brownie recipe and a chewy brownie recipe. And I'm actually going to start with the fudgy first because personally I like fudgy brownies better. So I'm just gonna go over the ingredients really fast. So in this cup we have cocoa powder, we have all-purpose flour, and this is actually instant coffee. The original recipe called for espresso, but given our current shopping situation, instant espresso wasn't as easy to come by, so we're gonna use instant coffee today. It's still gonna give that like really rich chocolate flavor. It's still really gonna complement the cocoa, so it'll work just fine. We have melted butter here, which I actually just melted in the microwave and then poured into the measuring cup to ensure that it was still 3/4 cup. I have 2 eggs, like regular size eggs here, that I put in lukewarm water for about 15 minutes or so while I was just sort of prepping everything. That way they would come to room temperature. You can just set them on the counter for 30 minutes, whichever is easier for you. And then in this cup, or this bowl, I have 1.5 cups of sugar. And in this little tiny cup, I have about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then I have 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. So the very first steps are going to be to combine the dry ingredients. So you want to add the instant espresso, or the instant coffee in this case, the cocoa powder, and the salt into one bowl. Whisk them together until they're pretty evenly distributed. Okay, so I wanted to bring you guys closer just to really sort of demonstrate the techniques for stirring here. So the next thing that you want to do is add the 3/4 cup of melted butter into the sugar. And you're going to want to whisk that until it's pretty evenly mixed, or until it's very evenly mixed. You get sort of like a pasty consistency. Almost turns like a whitish yellow color. Okay, and then next, this is a really important step. This is actually what's going to give you that really great fudgy, soft brownie texture. You have 2 room temperature eggs, and you want to whisk these in until it's very, very like sort of white in color. Get a workout while you're doing it. You see how it's starting to turn like almost like a whitish yellow. It might be hard to see on camera, but okay. And then next you want to add your vanilla extract. Whisk that in evenly. Okay, now we're going to slowly incorporate the powdered mixture into the wet mixture. To make sure we're actually going to transfer this to a larger bowl, which I had ready in the background, because you're going to want a lot more room to sort of mix all these things together, and use the rubber spatula to scrape all the excess stuff into the larger bowl. You'll want to mix this really well until it's nice and glossy. It has sort of that like shiny brownie batter. Oh gosh, I just flung a bunch of powder on myself. Try to avoid doing that, and you don't want to lose too many ingredients while you're making these. has sort of that glossy brownie look. I'm gonna go ahead and put some of that back in. See how it's really starting to have that like shine? That's what we're looking for. Now, like I had mentioned before, the key to these fudgy brownies is going to be the instant espresso, which is going to give it that like really rich chocolate flavor, and these large chunks. So this is our next step. It's just to fold these in loose, like sort of loosely within the batter. So just like lightly mixing them in. You don't want to crush any of them up too much because we want those like really large chunks in here. So I have my prepped pan here in the back. And we're just going to go ahead and transfer that over into this prepped pan. Now hopefully you guys find this like technique, or this pan technique, really helpful. It helps really well with actually getting all of the brownies out without having them stick really bad into the pan. Works a lot better than like just a traditional grease. Use a rubber spatula to get all the rest of the extra batter that's stuck to the sides. Set that aside. You want to evenly spread the brownie batter in the pan. And I already have the oven preheated to 350. And we're gonna wanna bake them for about 35 to 40 minutes, or until the toothpick comes out clean. So it just probably will depend on your actual oven, how long that takes you exactly. All right. Okay, so when you're making brownies, one of the more important things is to have the pan prepped in a way that the brownies won't stick. And so here I have pre-cut some parchment paper, and I'm going to show you guys how to properly prepare a brownie sheet or a brownie pan for making brownies. So what you want to do is get some oil. Here I have vegetable oil. You could use butter, and then you'll just want to cover the pan pretty evenly with a really light coating. That way, if there's any space between the parchment paper, like any space where the parchment paper doesn't cover, the oil will sort of take care of that. And then you'll want to put the parchment paper into the pan and sort of push it into the corners. That way it's like completely even. Fold over the sides. If you have a completely square pan, it's actually easier. And for me, this pan is sort of rounded at the bottom, so it doesn't quite fold into the corners as well as it would if the pan were square. Okay guys, we're gonna make the second recipe now, which is gonna be the chewy brownies. Now there's three main ingredients in this one that are actually gonna give you more of like a chewy brownie texture, and that's brown sugar. This is the number one ingredient that's gonna give you a chewy brownie, because it really like holds on to that moisture and gives you like a really just like chewy texture is the best way I could describe it. So this is really key for chewy brownies. We also I have eggs sitting out at room temperature again this time, but we have an extra egg because we're gonna add in just another egg yolk. So it'll be 2 full eggs and then an extra egg yolk to give it that like rich sort of chewy brownie consistency. And then we also have, instead of just butter, I added, it's 1/3 cup of butter and then 2 tablespoons of oil, which I just use regular canola oil because it's like that neutral tasting oil and it's not going to give you any like added flavor. It's just really neutral. And this is also going to give you that like really chewy consistency. So the 3 ingredients together really give you that consistency that you're looking for. So I'm going to actually move you guys closer and I'm going to give you a more up close view of how I'm going to mix everything together. Okay, so we're going to start with the dry ingredients first. We're going to combine the flour and the cocoa powder, just like we did last time, into one bowl. We're going to whisk these together until they're just really evenly distributed. Okay. And then since we have brown sugar and regular sugar this time, we need to incorporate both of those. Actually, wait. I almost forgot one thing. We have to add the salt. It's just a half a teaspoon of salt. You want to evenly incorporate that and move this aside. Okay. And now we want to evenly mix the brown sugar and the regular sugar. Brown sugar is really sticky, so it tends to sort of clump together. So you just want to break up all those clumps and mix in the regular granulated sugar. Until it looks something like this. And actually on the last video, or on the last segment, when I showed you, actually let me add in the butter really quick. So this is the butter and the oil. You want to pour that in. Mix that until you've got a really nice sort of paste. And on the last segment, I actually showed both of the eggs being added in at one time, and you actually don't want to do that. You want to add in 1 egg at a time. So I apologize for that. It's not something I normally do. It's actually a new technique that I haven't used before. So you want to whisk in 1 egg at a time until you start to get that white, like emulsification where the egg is really starting to get blended in with the sugar. You want to do that for 2 full eggs, and then remember that the 3rd egg is actually just a yolk. So make sure you separate the egg white out as you're adding that in. Fold these in, fold this into the dry ingredients. Make sure we incorporate everything. Add in the vanilla extract, which actually technically supposed to add that to the wet before you add it to the dry, but I'm sure that if you do this, it's not going to make any sort of difference because it's going to get incorporated pretty well. So you want to mix this until you achieve the same look as the last one. You have that nice glossy look. No clumps. And this is actually really smooth. Starting to have like a really glossy look. So then we'll pour this into the pan, our ready pan, our prepped pan, and bake it at the same temperature, 350. And this one actually has a little bit shorter of a time. It's 30 to 35 minutes, or until the toothpick comes out clean. Okay, so I just took out the first set of brownies, and as you can see, mean, it really just stuck a little tiny bit to the parchment paper, but the pan is perfectly clean. Okay, so I actually forgot to add one thing to let you guys know about whenever I was describing the pan preparation and the cooling process, like after I actually remove the brownies from the oven, is that you want to wait until they're completely cooled before you try to cut them. Like you can pull them out of the pan like with the parchment paper because you kind of have handles, but don't actually try to cool them and serve them or try to cut them and serve them until they're completely cooled. Otherwise you end up having them like crumble and fall apart and they really stick to the knife. And also the flavor just isn't as great until they're completely cool. So just wait until they're completely cool before you try.
You should put that part in like.
Okay, so this is my husband John. This is my husband John, and he's gonna try the recipes and tell us which texture that he thinks is best. You wanna go ahead and try? He's gonna try the chewy brownies first. He has milk to cleanse his palate between recipes.
Palate cleansing is essential. Which one was it? Chewy.
Okay. This is the fudgy. Break it open inside and describe the texture.
Looks. People aren't gonna like this word, but moist.
Yeah, those are my thoughts too. Fudgy wins.
The chewy one was definitely chewy, and it was a good brownie, but the fudgy is definitely better, in my opinion. Side piece. This one's more, like cakey. It's more. It's light, right?
This one, like you can literally see the like chocolate pockets of the.
Oh yeah, that would have been good for the video. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Definitely. My God. Oh my God.
Okay guys, so that concludes both of the recipes that I was going to show you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you found the recipe manipulations for different textures helpful, as well as the pan preparation and the cutting techniques helpful whenever you make brownies the next time. Thanks.